And that's our theme music, the first episode of XY PodCats.
XY PodCats. Welcome.
The XY PodCats. I'm Scott.
I'm Sam.
And we are representing Generation X, Generation Y. So we're going to revisit the past 100 years and talk about some of the things that were happening on the years that we highlight. This year is a special year because this is the year in which Sam was born, 1989. It was alive.
The best year alive.
Well, it was the best year of the 80s because it was the last of the 80s. We had to put up with like pastels and skinny ties, leather ties, and Jerry curls, and overly electronic music. Some of the more interesting things that were happening in 1989, just mentioned earlier before we started recording, the Tiananmen Square protests in China, which I remember hearing about in the news. And then in the United Kingdom was the Hillsborough disaster. I still have no idea what that is. I'm going to have to look that up. The Galileo spacecraft was launched by NASA. Then the Cold War ended. The Berlin Wall came down, so it's cool that you get to be born during that year. And then the Exxon Valdez.
What is that?
There was a major oil spill. The Exxon Valdez spilled 240,000 barrels of 11 million gallons of oil.
Wow.
Yes. Finally, Nintendo released the Game Boy in Japan in April and then in July in North America. So on the month you were born, the Game Boy was released in Japan. Did you have a Game Boy?
I did. I've had every console since the Atari 2600.
I never had a game. I actually didn't have an Atari 2600 either. My friends did. So I was always the kid going over to my friend's house to play video games. But I never had a Game Boy. My first console that I owned, I bought pretty much as an adult. It was a Sega Genesis.
Oh, I had one. Those is a great console.
It was.
Such a great console. If I still had one, what's the oldest one I own now? It's probably a Game Boy is what I have. The oldest one.
You still have it?
Yeah, I still have a Game Boy.
What's the popular handheld system now?
Either a Steam Deck.
A what now?
A Steam Deck. It's a portable computer. It plays. It runs off Linux.
Wow.
Yeah.
It should probably become obvious who's older. And, I mean, I've got a PlayStation. I've got a PlayStation 5. So in 1989, kind of getting to the nitty-gritty here.
It's kind of like the Michael Jackson era, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the Michael Jackson era. Michael Jackson era started in the 70s.
Oh, Jackson 5.
With his brothers.
Yeah.
And it ended, I guess it's probably fair to say it ended in 2009 when he died.
June 25th. Yeah.
Yep. A year we will have to revisit at some point. I actually had a conversation about him and Prince earlier. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about both of their deaths.
It is a bit ominous.
Yeah, it is. Coming to the meat and potatoes of today's episode, I wanted to focus on a couple movie choices of mine from 1989, and I know that you had, I think you had one or two as well. So 1989 was actually a really cool year for movies, and having been alive to go to the movies in '89, I want to bring up probably the biggest movie of the '80s, certainly of 1989, and it was actually Tim Burton's Batman.
I was just looking at that movie.
So, if you grew up when I did, in the 70s, Batman was Adam West. And, the big cartoony, wham bam, high comedy, walking on the floor pretending it's a wall of a building Batman. So Batman was really campy and really over the top until, I think it was 86, if I'm remembering correctly, that Frank Miller released Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. And then
not the remake, right?
It was a graphic novel.
Oh, okay.
Dark Knight, and it was, Batman was, like in his, I guess he was middle aged. I don't know, 50s, maybe 60s. Oh, so he, I mean, it was hardcore Batman, but it was definitely a book that was written for adults and took Batman seriously. So, but when Tim Burton released Batman in '89, he returned Batman to his dark roots, and he was for grown-ups again, and it was kind of violent. If
Right.
if you grew up on Super Friends and Adam West, you weren't maybe ready for that, but I mean, I was, and I loved it. I bought it on VHS when it came out. When the DVD came out years later, I bought it. So since I stole your thunder for movies, what was your choice?
I actually changed mine to my dad was a big Van Damme fan, so I've I guess inherited his his Van Damme likeness, but Kickboxer, 1989.
Yep, me and the wife saw that in the theater.
Wow, that would have been awesome to see in the theater, honestly.
Yep, he was fresh off of Bloodsport.
Yeah, another great.
And Dennis Alexio, he actually got Dennis Alexio to be in that to play his brother. If you remember the actor that played his brother who ended up getting crippled.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was actually Dennis Alexio. He was actually a real kickboxer.
Oh, I didn't know
And the actor who played Tong Po was actually also played one of the fighters in Bloodsport.
Yeah, I saw that.
He was the guy who got his leg broke.
Yeah.
It's
another great though. Then they remade it with it. They did a second one, Vengeance, Kickboxer Vengeance. It was
not Sasha Mitchell.
Sasha Mitchell.
I think that was his last name. First name was Sasha.
I know Dave Bautista. He was in it.
Oh, was he?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I didn't follow the Kickboxers that closely after the first one. Mainly because at that time I was also a big Van Damme fan, and I didn't really have much interest in seeing some other guy do it. Now, although I know that Sasha Mitchell was good.
Yeah.
He
just wasn't Van Damme status.
Yes. Well, he went on to play Cody in Step by Step, like the sitcom.
Right. Yeah.
Suzanne Summers and Patrick Duffy. Same thing happened, I think, with Bloodsport, too.
That's something else when you talk about is sitcoms. Eventually, get into that later.
Oh, yep. I don't remember what came out in '89, but I remember the Cosby Show was on. I'm not gonna lie, I love the Cosby Show.
I watched it every night as a kid, honestly.
I know we're not allowed to talk about him now.
I mean, I wouldn't let him pour me a drink, but that's whatever.
Are you thirsty? You need to have something to drink before you die of thirst. Okay, that's wrong. I got a second flick.
All right.
So, probably my second favorite flick of 1989 was Lethal Weapon 2.
Oh, Lethal Weapon. Oh, man. I couldn't tell you how many times I watched all of those.
So, I mean, and 87 was we're going to have to revisit 87. 87 was a monumental year for movies for me, personally. And Lethal Weapon was like the first summer blockbuster of that year. But Lethal Weapon 2 is actually what in my mind, made that Lethal Weapon a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and forgive me for getting all movie geek on you, but the screenplay was written by Jeffrey Boehm, who was, he had a knack for like writing scripts so that actors could improvise, which really worked well for Mel Gibson and, Danny Glover, because those two did have really good chemistry, and they kind of, in a lot of ways, redefined the buddy cop genre, because they were more like an old married couple, and they were just kind of bickering and nagging at each other.
They're feeding off each other's energy.
Exactly. But it also had to me, it was a better written script than the first one. The original Lethal Weapon, Shane Black threw that script in the trash, like, I don't know how many times before he finished it and it got made.
Right.
Now, what was the saving grace of that entire franchise was the fact that Richard Donner was the director. Richard Donner was a fantastic director, and he took what was probably a mediocre script, and Shane Black is kind of Hollywood royalty now, but back then I don't think he would have disagreed with the fact that that script was kind of weak.
Yeah.
But you cast Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, and
Richard Donner.
He directed The Omen, the original Omen,
and Maverick,
Superman.
Right. One of my favorites, The Goonies.
Yeah, that was Donner.
That was Donner.
Gee, if only one of us could pull up an IMDb page and see everything that Richard Donner directed.
Right? Give me 1 second. There we go.
But yeah, Lethal Weapon 2 is my favorite of the Lethal Weapon movies. Oh, and it introduced Joe Pesci.
And it says Richard Donner passed away in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah, that I did know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the good times.
Yeah. Well, nobody gets out of here alive, but
That's right. Right.
When you're Richard Donner, you get to be remembered by your work. I mean, he had a pretty good body of work.
Let's hit up songs from 1989. I don't know a lot of them, but probably know more than I think I do.
Well, your music tastes are eclectic, so you probably know a lot.
I do have a wide range of taste, like different genres, and I'm a music lover. I have to,
Yeah, if someone says that they don't like music, like in general, just don't like music, I don't trust them.
They're not human. They're just...
It's like somebody saying, I don't like dogs.
Right? Exactly. So I will pick this one song, and again, it's one of my dad's favorite bands. Every Rose Has Its Thorn by Poison. Yeah.
Okay.
You have to go with it. I mean, it just has such a good voice in it.
You wouldn't be on Wikipedia, would you?
No, I'm not on Wikipedia.
It is the first song in Wikipedia's page for Billboard's Top 100.
Really?
Yes.
Now I'm going to go to Wikipedia just to find this out. So you saw on Wikipedia where you saw the Every Rose Has Its Thorn on the top?
Yep. So I'll tell you something else, too. Nothing else brings back memories from your youth like the songs that were on the radio. And back in those days, if you liked a song, you had to go to the record store and find it. There wasn't any, I'll pull it up on my phone.
Right. We had two places we went to when I was in the 90s. It was Music for a Song and Cats Record and Disc. And they sold vinyls, CDs, cassettes.
And I'll say I didn't spend a lot of time in music stores, but when I would go in there, I mean, part of the reason was because when I would go in there, I would, as you could imagine, be in there for a long time. It was just, you just get sucked in.
Right. It's just like it's just a black hole full of music.
But holy cow! Well, if I had to pick one,
you had to pick one. That's a hard choice.
It is. And like I said, I remember all these. Well, like I said, we're gonna have to come back to 1989. But if I'm going to pick "Blame It on the Rain"
Oh, that song.
by Milli Vanilli.
Oh
Uh,
man.
the reason I'm picking that one, aside from the fact that everybody knows that Milli Vanilli they weren't doing their own singing, but nobody knew that at the time. We just thought they were, just another band.
Right.
But I think the reason it's resonating today is because one of my Facebook friends, who you know, but I'm not going to mention his name here, actually posted a picture of that app where you can take your face and put it on like a really jacked body, or and make yourself look like a biker dude,
Oh
or
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know what the app is called, but anyway, he used that app and he looked like one of the members of Milli Vanilli. What kind of face-off Milli Vanilli face-swapping thing is going on here? So that's what made me think of Milli Vanilli, and that's what made me think of "Blame It on the Rain." But
When you said "Blame It on the Rain," I had the other song. Have you ever seen the rain? It just popped in my head. I don't know why, but Credence is just there.
CCR?
Yep.
Yep.
And another artist that blew up in the '80s and the early '90s was Bon Jovi.
Yep. What were you going to pick?
I was going to pick "I'll Be There for You."
Yeah.
No, I did pull that up on Wikipedia. That's what made me think of Bon Jovi.
I think Bon Jovi, in retrospect, especially now, was a really cool artist, just because of his public image. I never really cared for their music coming through in the '80s. I didn't like his voice.
Did it sound kind of airy?
It sounded like he was in pain.
Like nasally in pain?
Well, I mean, in terms of like celebrities, I think he's kind of he married his high school sweetheart. I don't recall there being a whole lot of controversial stuff about him, or the band in their heyday.
Yeah.
Not that I followed them that closely.
Other than Kiss, they were up there with him.
Yeah. Gene Simmons was a genius. I think he still is a genius. He's still alive. But yeah, Gene Simmons was a really, really smart guy.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to their concert in Knoxville, but they canceled their tour because Paul got sick, I believe. One of the members got sick, and I think it was Paul.
My wife was a Kiss fan.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, some kid I grew up with in the early '80s, late '70s, was a huge Kiss fan. They were I think that were the start of the hair bands, or kind of really ushered it in.
Right. I've got some of their action figures, and still in the package, not open. Their Psycho Circus one and Gene Simmons with blood and a guitar.
Yeah, I mean that was the kind of a turnoff. The spit and fire thing I thought was cool.
Yeah,
the spit and blood thing was like that's gross. That's really kind of nasty.
It's kind of devilish. I like it. Just kidding.
And then he had the really long, ridiculously long tongue. Now I don't know if this was true or not, but there was this rumor going around when I was a kid that he actually had surgery on
and put a cow tongue on it.
Well, no, he removed like the part of your tongue underneath that connects it to the bottom of your mouth.
Yeah.
Allegedly, he had cut that so that he could get his tongue out of his mouth further.
Now, I would believe that, but there's a show called Family Jewels, and his son has the same tongue as him. It is wicked long.
Well, I mean, they all kinds of.
Yeah, I've heard that before too.
But I mean, there's all kinds of rumors, and you never know what. We only know what they tell us,
right?
But we don't know what's actually factual. But just like they were supposed to be the big ones that started the backwards masking. A friend of mine, who was a Kiss fan, he turned one of the records backwards, and he swore to me it was saying "Sons of Satan."
I've heard that, yeah.
And okay, I couldn't hear. I've always been really bad with hearing lyrics like when they're said the right way. So I'm not going to hear crap backwards.
Yeah, let's just reverse it and see if we can hear better.
Prince actually backward masked one of his songs at the end, and it was actually had some kind of a positive religious message.
No, that's what's up. I like that.
All right. So I'll give you the last one. What do you want to close with?
Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Here's a good one. All right, Skid Row, 18 in Life.
Okay.
Have you heard that one?
I know I've heard it. It sounds vaguely familiar, but I can't place it at the moment. Nope. But to be fair, I don't think I listened to a lot of Skid Row. What are you doing, pulling it up?
I already I exited out of the website of it, but I just listened to it today. Actually, came across my Alexa, and I was like, I forgot how much this song jams. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, just some of it. I mean, once again, realizing that you were you were literally an infant when these songs dropped. But
Yeah.
My Prerogative by Bobby Brown. They told Bobby Brown he was crazy for leaving New Edition, and his solo career blew up.
Right.
Paula Abdul, Straight Up. She had a few hits in '89. But yeah, Mike and the Mechanics, The Living Years. I really liked that song by Mike and the Mechanics.
No, I haven't heard that one. No, you have to send a link on that one, or I can look it up. I have to pull it up.
Yeah, I'm not singing it.
Oh, come on.
Maybe down the road. That's a podcast in the future. They'll get to hear our velvet tones. But right out of the gate here, I'm not up for that.
You know who I actually started liking recently? Carly Pierce. You ever heard of her?
No.
A country artist, but she's really, really good. I went to the Tim McGraw concert, and she opened for him. And I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, this chick knows how to sing, and she waved at me too, so it was kind of cool.
Danny, and that's another problem. I didn't start actually even listening to any kind of country music until I was well into my adult years.
Mine was 90s, mid 90s. I was listening to country music from my parents, my mom, and then my dad listened to rock and metal. And then my brother listened to rap, so I kind of got all three genres going on. Went to my uncle's house, listened to Beach Boys and Temptations, and fell in love with the Temptations. That's my absolute favorite group of all time.
There will definitely be much discussion on the Temptations in future episodes.
Can't wait for that one.
Just like looking at all these songs from '89. This is just '89.
Oh, we got plenty more where this came from.
Bat Dance. Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire. Gloria Estefan.
I know the name. I haven't listened to anything from.
She's the front woman for Miami Sound Machine.
Okay.
I know you've heard her music, and I know you've heard music from them.
Yeah, I've heard their music. I didn't know that she did that.
Well, in a couple years, the grunge phase starts, so that'll be interesting. Before we jump off here, we should figure out what year we're doing next.
I think we should do yours.
Oh, 1985. Is that what we're...
1980... No?
So that would be 1969.
1969.
Yes, I was alive.
That sounds like the, what was it, Bell Bottoms?
I think Bell Bottoms might have been in style by then. And they made their way through the 70s. I never wore or owned any bell bottoms, thankfully. I was too young to make that kind of a fashion choice, and my parents weren't that cruel. But I was able to rock a very young afro.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
You have any pictures of it?
I'll talk to my mother and see if
we can pull one up. Believe it or not, I used to have long hair before gravity took its toll and it went to my beard.
So I have to find it. There is a picture of me out there with shoulder-length hair.
Was it straight? Like you just straightened it out and
I had the curl. I had the curly perm.
The Jerry curl?
That was its popular name, although the hairdresser who gave it to me said this isn't a Jerry curl, it's a curly perm. I don't know that there was a difference, but I was still getting activator all over everything, sitting down on chairs, leaving grease spots.
Now that's going to be interesting to see. Seeing you one way.
But yeah, I don't know if I can. I'll have to see if I can find any pictures of that. All right. Oh, we got to figure out how to sign off.
Thanks for joining us. Come back next time. XY PodCats.
Yep, it works for me.